Hi everyone, I'm Rosie Herrington and I'm a vet student in my second last year at the University of Edinburgh in Scotland. In IVSA I've done a couple of things, including being my member organisation's Veterinary Public Health Officer and currently the President, but most recently I've been Chair of the Committee on Collaboration with Global Health Organisations and I've helped to organise the World Healthcare Student Symposium in Rwanda last year. So the title of my talk today is Food Security, What is it and why should we care? And hopefully I'll be able to answer these questions for you. I'm going to be briefly going through exactly what it is, how it affects people in both low income and high income countries, and what we as future vets can be doing to help. So part of the inspiration for giving this talk is that today is World Vet Day. This year, the OIE and the World Veterinary Association have paired together to form the World Vet Day Award under the theme, The Role of the Veterinary Profession in Sustainable Development to Improve Livelihoods, Food Security and Safety. We thought that this could be the perfect opportunity to delve a little bit more into this topic, which we often don't get very much teaching on. So what is food security? Well, the FAO definition as of 2002 is that food security is a situation that exists when all people at all times have physical, social and economic access to sufficient, safe and nutritious food that meets their dietary needs and food preferences for an active and healthy life. This means that when we talk about a country or household being food insecure, they essentially do not have adequate physical, social, or economic access to food. As we all know, farm animals make up a large proportion of a vet's patients, and these, of course, are used to provide food for people. So this essentially means that we future vets all have the potential to play a part in food security by providing sufficient, safe, and nutritious food. Food insecurity can further be split up into chronic and acute forms. So chronic food insecurity is a lack of minimum requirement of food for a sustained period of time. This is commonly caused by extended periods of poverty, lack of assets, and inadequate access to productive or financial resources. Whereas acute or transitory food insecurity is a sudden lack of food or reduction in the ability to produce or access minimum requirement of food, and this can be caused by year-to-year variations in domestic food production, food prices, and household incomes. So why does this matter? Well, about 815 million people in the world are undernourished. This is a number that's hardly changed since 1990. And what effect does this have? Well, one child dies every 6 seconds from hunger or hunger-related disease, with a total of 10 million people a year dying. And malnutrition, especially in children, affects both physical and mental growth, which sometimes can be irreversible. This, I think, is quite nicely explained in the poverty cycle. So this diagram explains the way in which poverty and thus malnutrition, especially of pregnant women and children, has been shown to have a significant effect on productivity. The cycle begins when pregnant women and children are unable to be fed sufficiently, resulting in a delay in growth and development of the child. This in turn means that children gain less education and suffer from more chronic illness. As a result, they're less likely to be able to work or more likely to get a lower paying job. This continued poverty as a result means that they are then unable to afford to properly feed their children, and so the cycle continues. So going back to why does this matter? Well, as well as the human welfare aspect, as veterinarians, we of course will be concerned about animal welfare. As farms intensify in some countries and continue to suffer from infectious diseases, there's a lot of potential issues which could increase animal suffering. In addition to the nutritious benefits, increasing food security can increase income generation, job creation, economic growth, and then feed back into poverty alleviation to help the cycle that we just discussed. So really, food security matters a lot to both animals and people, and we as vet students have the potential to help. As Bill Gates said recently in Edinburgh, great science is helping to turn livestock into a pathway out of poverty. So next I'll just summarise why in some situations animal source protein and livestock farming in general is so important. So where malnutrition is present, vitamin A, zinc, B12 and iodine are amongst the most common micro and macronutrient deficiencies. These are all present in animal source proteins in readily bioavailable forms and can be relatively difficult to get sufficient quantities of in other food. Furthermore, studies have shown that meat and milk consumption to be implicated in cognitive ability, where resultant salting and nutrient deficiencies can cause a significant drop in IQ. Aside from the direct effects of consuming animal protein, livestock represent an income for 1.3 billion people around the world. As part of this, over half the world's cereals are produced in a mixed crop livestock system, which means farms that keep both crops and livestock. On these, livestock may be used for ploughing fields or for using their manure as fertilizer. In fact, ILRI calculated that between 23 and 38% of the soil nitrogen necessary for crop production comes from livestock manure. Also, if our diet was to contain approximately 11% animal protein, then one study showed that this would actually maximize our land use, but this is actually about a third of the amount that we consume in a Western diet. So this far, I've been talking mostly about countries who are food deficient and so suffer from undernutrition. But what about those countries who have plenty of food? Where does food security fit in there? Well, high-income countries in general don't see the same macro and micronutrient deficiencies, and in fact many suffer from a burden of diseases caused by overnutrition. However, there is undeniably an increase in demand for animal source foods, and production is on the rise, as shown here in this graph, where HICs stands for high-income countries and is represented by the dashed line, and this shows a historical increase and further estimation for the production of eggs, milk, pork and poultry. So to respond to this, farming systems are increasing their output, and this brings new challenges in terms of animal welfare, economic viability, and food safety. So the last time I mentioned there, food safety, is one that developing countries have been focusing on and is inextricably linked to food security. Food safety involves the safe handling of food from the time it is grown, packaged, distributed, and prepared to prevent foodborne illness. This is important as 1 in 10 people around the world fall ill from foodborne illnesses, resulting in nearly 500,000 deaths. When you combine the time people are incapacitated by illness and the time lost for those who have died, this totals up to 33 million healthy life years being lost. Vets' role in food safety spans from being on the farm to meat and other produce inspection to international trade. As globalization continues to increase and food chains continue to get longer and more complicated, there is no doubt that this is an area which will need more vet input in the future. So I hope that the previous slides have helped to explain a bit about what food security is, the impact food insecurity can have, and a look at the difference between high and low income countries. One quote I came across, which I thought was quite an important point, was that from Jimmy Smith, Director General of ILRI, or the International Livestock Research Institute. He said, "I believe there is no moral equivalence between those who make bad food choices and consume too much animal source food and those many hungry people who, with no food choice at all, consume far too little." I think this highlights the fact that there is likely no single solution to create food security and safety in all countries. So what do vets do for this? Well, vets have a wide range of roles in food security. In 2011, the OIE identified that low numbers of vets in both the private and public sectors was a major constraint for world food security and safety. They are needed in all stages of the food chain, from ensuring safe and high welfare production in communities, to processing, to transport and distribution around the world. The FAO is a specialized agency of the UN which works in 130 countries on field projects, creating policies, creating and analyzing data, and general advocacy. And as of 2010, 156 vets worked in the FAO using their expertise to help. Vet institutions across the world are also undertaking research in the area, and this is somewhere where our students can get involved. And out with academic institutions, there's also charities such as Vets Without Borders and GalfMed. So what can we as vet students do for now? Well, you could do an FAO internship. These can last from between 3 months and 1 year, and you do get a stipend a month. You could do an OIE internship, which is a minimum of only 1 month. You can become an ILRI student associate, which is kind of like an internship, and you work there for between 6 weeks and 6 months. You could also just go and do some research with the university. This is what I'm currently trying to do this summer, and it really does just involve sending out tons and tons of emails. There's also charities which work in the area who you could email and ask about doing some work experience at. So what is IVSA doing next? Well, the Standing Committee on One Health have decided to have the theme of their next journal to be food security. So you guys could submit an article for that if you like. The deadline for that would be the end of May. Your local veterinary public health officer will also hopefully be holding an event on your campus during May on the theme of food security. IVSA will also be being represented at the World Health Assembly and at the Food and Agriculture Organisation's European Regional Conference. And we've also actually applied for special consultative status at the Food and Agriculture Organisation, so hopefully we'll be getting lots more opportunities if we're accepted for that. So here are just a few of the references for the facts that I used today, in case you want to go back and have a look for more information. And lastly, just thank you very much for listening to the talk. I hope that you've learned something new. I certainly did while I was compiling this. And if you want to get involved, then just have a look out for other activities and get stuck in. Thank you very much.